All right, welcome back to another episode of the What Podcast. I'm Barry, that's Brian. You'll notice Lord Taco is not with us today. He's off doing whatever one does in a VW bus. It's Bugapalooza in Chattanooga. That's his other happy place. I'm sure he's having a great time.
Yep, it is it's a fun event here in Chattanooga, and he's an organizer as
Yep.
well. So,
Yep.
but he'll get us cleaned up, make the show look good like he always does, and we'll talk to him again
That's
next
exactly right.
week.
We've got a kind of a part two, I guess. We had Patrick Wieland on from the founder of Soberoo last week. I thought it was a fascinating show, and we wanted to extend it by having a couple other people that we know sort of give more perspective, I guess, on how to do a festival sober, do an event like this sober. Brian, you gracious enough to talk about your own experience. So we thought we'd have Tara Veland and her daughter Kai, who is 17. Kai is one of the coolest people that I know, especially as a young person, but just as a person in general.
Yeah, she's the official intern of the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer she's going to want to have that title.
Right?
It's probably flattering at first, but now it's like, okay, enough, guys.
And we
But
also,
no, it's been fun to see the maturation of her and her family and how they've done it. We also we'll talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts of bringing a teenager.
Yeah.
We talk about the do's and don'ts of grown ass adults.
Yeah.
How about the do's and don'ts of bringing a teenager? And we'll get into that here shortly. And that was interesting as well from Tara. So
yeah, so
a fun little follow up. It's kind of a hybrid. It's not a complete follow up, but I do want to say about last week's show is that it did turn out well, and I'm my worst critic on things, and I wasn't sure if it was because I won't really know until it's done, and then kind of give it a review of my own. But really, what it comes down to, forget me, forget you, forget Russ. Patrick was a great guest.
100%.
Just a great guest. And not forget what organization he's here to talk about. Insert whatever organization that it might be if it wasn't that. He's just a great guest. And those are hard to find sometimes. And we didn't even really know that going into it. And that is what makes this kind of content great to me, fun to me, and good for what I believe the listener too, because yeah, we can talk about things all day long. We can talk for the next couple hours, Barry. There's just no reason to do that.
Right.
But bring in somebody who really has something to say, is excited to be there. Man, Patrick was all that, and I love that about him. And I feel like he's my friend. I've never met him, and I got to hang out with him at Bonnaroo.
I 100% agree. And just like this episode, I think he brings a deeper perspective than just one thing. We pointed out last week the fact that, he came out of the Grateful Dead culture.
Yeah, which none of us knew until we discussed it on that show. Yeah,
And I thought it was so important to point out, that, and we do in this episode as well, that Bonnaroo is a place where people go to do recreational drugs and drinking, and that's fine.
Yeah,
And
to learn about themselves, and sometimes that enhances that. And
right.
Yeah, what I appreciate about him too was maybe when I would think about how we layered, how we did the show, and maybe meandered a little bit. He knew what we were trying to get to, and he got to it.
Yeah.
And so if you have not seen that whole thing, it is long, but it is worth every second of it. And I wouldn't just get on here and start saying that if I didn't believe it. I'd just say, yeah, it was good, Barry. Anyway, next, move along.
Yeah, moving on.
I totally, I was 100% like this is some pretty good work, and it was all Patrick that he made that thing go.
Well, and along those lines, again, the guest today, you'll hear, like I said, Kai is 17 with 6 years of experience. She brings that perspective. Tara, her mother, is an 18-year, going on 19-year veteran.
And a veteran of the live music space all the way
That's what I
around,
wanted to say. Yeah,
professionally as well. Yeah,
She's run venues here. She's on the board here for one of our larger summer series. So she brings a experience from and a perspective that not everybody has. Cassie is 8-year. Cassie Wanamaker is our other guest. She's been to 8 Bonnaroos. What she said, the last 3 sober,
2 or 3.
2 or 3. And so, we talk about the support that's needed and how do you get through that and all that. And again, I want to emphasize this is not a show about trying to change anyone's mind or how you experience it. If you want to go there and drink and do recreational drugs, please do. Like I said, I can't think of a better place.
Yeah, I mean, if you know what you're doing and you
Right.
and you've got a plan, there's nothing wrong with it. And it's just for some there isn't, and to know that there's things you can do to prepare to be preventative
Yeah, be safe.
for issues and be safe and not be stigmatized for that. And starting from last week, organizations where if you just need to get away, even if you're not in, like, I had trouble with this at first, like when they call if you're a recovering addict, you're in recovery for forever.
Mhm.
Like that's how it's referenced. Like, oh, all right, so you in recovery still? And I'm
Right.
like, well, yeah, I thought I was done with recovery.
Yeah, right.
No, you're really not, based on their terminology, and so even if you're not in what you would consider a recovery, but you just need to get away from the madness, Soberu is that outlet for you. And yeah, so just great show last week, and to understand how that organization works, and to have some people today we'll get to here very, very shortly. Before we do that, real quick, Barry, if you don't care, I wanted to bring up this Texas Eclipse Festival. Not a huge news that we need to spend a long period of time on, but and I didn't get too far into the weeds through the social threads like I normally do. It was a 40,000 capacity festival last weekend, so it ended the day after we last recorded. So it's about a week and 3 days, about 10 days old now. But it was a one-off put together that was in the line of totality for the Eclipse on Monday. And so it started on Friday, and it was going to end on Tuesday. And this is EDM, all day EDM. Didn't recognize a name on it. But it also had a lot of art installations, lots of astrology, tarot, all the stuff you would expect to come with that kind of celestial event. And so, by all accounts, it was from what I read, it didn't get to the 40,000 ticket capacity, but it was still, I think, in the half plus of that, so a decent amount of people. And weather, tornadoes, hail, really bad forecasts came into this Texas area. Forgive me for not knowing what part of Texas, but somewhere where that swath of totality runs through. And at 10 a.m. on Eclipse Monday, they canceled the remainder of the event because the weather forecast looked that bad.
Wow.
So it started on Friday. You're thinking you're going to make it through this, and the Eclipse is kind of the star of the show. It's almost the headliner of the festival. And this very unique, cool idea, at least the little I know about it. But just imagine being at a festival where that's the thing you're waiting for, kind of. It's kind of the crescendo. And 4 hours before it starts, they're evacuating,
go home,
closing, and it's done. Now, all that swath of Texas kind of got their eclipse ruined because the weather came through and kind of ruined it. I mean, it got dark, but it was going to get dark anyway because it was going to be bad storms. So that's just unfortunate. Yeah, so that's just unfortunate for them. But just to be, kind of out of pocket a little because you're at this festival thing, and I don't know the grounds or much more than that, but then just being told, hey, yeah, the eclipse starts in a few hours. You gotta go.
You gotta go home and watch. Wow. I hadn't heard anything about that.
I don't think there was they did some partial refunds. No big deal as far as no. There were actually talk about maybe some health stuff, but I didn't get too far into it. Just thought, man, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
So that's just the latest of festival talk for the week, and I thought it was worth mentioning.
You mentioned the how many people showed up. That reminds me, I had a couple conversations this week, and it does look like Bonnaroo. There was some talk that it was way down the numbers. I've been told probably going to be somewhat like last year, which I think was
60
yeah,
plus. Yeah,
yeah,
60 to 70.
yeah. So good
That'd be more
numbers.
that'd be more comfortable for us,
Yeah,
and that's a number that's not like, what are
right.
we gonna do? That's still a solid number.
It
So
is, and also the day. You remember there was the talk where they were not going to do day passes and then backed off on that immediately, and it has made a difference as far as sales. So that's why they did it. So
good,
we'll
good.
see
I'm
how that
glad.
works out. Yeah, I don't have strong feelings either way on that one.
I
I
don't.
know
Yeah,
what I'm going to do. That's all.
yeah, I don't either. From a philosophical social thread, I don't have an opinion there. If you can sell more tickets,
Yeah,
do whatever it takes.
got to make money.
So
So,
I
but
agree with that.
all right, so here we go with our conversation with Cassie, Tara, and Kai, and thanks again to them. And we'll be. I'm anxious for everybody to hear it. It was a great conversation, and I thank them for their time. Hey, everybody. If you're a longtime listener to the show, you'll remember last week we had Patrick Whelan, the founder of Soberoo, one of my favorite episodes. I don't know if you're nodding your head. I hope you got to hear it, Tara
I
and Kai
did.
and Cassie and Brian. I know we talked all week with our co host, Lord Taco Russ, who you'll notice is not here. I guess, by the way, I should start. Um, and just say he's at Bugapalooza, which is his second happiest place on earth, I imagine. Bonnaroo probably is. I don't know which is one or two, but Russ with the bus, a bunch of Beetle fanatics, Volkswagen fanatics, or
Yeah, he might not admit it out loud. He might have a different tune when he's out there with all his
yeah,
bus VW people. I would guess Bonnaroo's overtaken the number one, but Bugapalooza is one of the biggest Volkswagen car shows in the Southeast.
yeah.
It might even go bigger than that. So it's a pretty big deal here in Chattanooga, and it's about as perfect a weather as it could be for a spring weekend. So yeah, that's where he is, and I usually pop in there. Won't make it this year though.
Not only is he
Yeah.
there because he's got a VW, but he's very active in the
Yeah.
event and planning it and all that. So hope he's having a good time. He'll be back next week. But last week we had, like I said, Patrick on, who we spent almost more than an hour talking about attending an event like Bonnaroo sober. And I thought it was terribly insightful for so many reasons. So much so that we want to continue that conversation. Um, we've got with us Tara Veland. I always want to make it more emphasis.
V-Land.
Tara V is fine. Yeah.
Veland and her daughter Kai. Kai, you are how old now?
I'm 17.
That's what I thought. And we'll get into their creds here in a minute. And Cassie Wanamaker is joining us as well, right? What I want to do is talk a little bit about, not a little bit, as much as we want to, just sort of extend that conversation. And then also, you guys are veteran Bonnaroo attendees, so we want to get your, take on the festival in general as well. So I'll give I'll go ahead and ask. I'll start with you, Cassie. How many years have you attended, and why, and when did it start, and all that? What's your relationship?
So I've been to Bonnaroo 8 times. This year will be my ninth time. Started going in 2014, and I've went consecutively ever since.
Tara, your answer is going to be little bit longer. I'll go ahead and let you try to I've known Tara for a long time, for guys in the show, and Brian, I know you have as well. Like a lot of us, this festival, and Cassie, I assume you as well. it hits a lot more than just an event, right? I mean, it meaningful to us all year round. Um, so, Tara, the reason I was laughing is you sent a nice email with kind of some talking points and some notes, and it's pretty extensive. So I'll let you sort of hit the highlights to that if you can, and then we'll all jump back in because your story is so similar to so many others, but so unique. And to me, that's what makes this event special. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Barry, for that. Yes, so Bonnaroo is in my blood. You know, talking about that story, I grew up here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I became a wild child at a very young age. No one ever talked to me about college or careers or what you wanted to do with your life. And I ended up moving after graduating high school by miracle to Norfolk, Virginia. And while I was there, again, somehow got a job as a security guard at the Virginia Beach Amphitheater. I'll never forget being like a 19-year-old, tiny thing. And one of my first shows was watching the pyro boxes at Metallica as these huge stagehands are all walking around that I'd waited on at my restaurant job the night before. So that was kind of cool. But that same company actually led me back home to Tennessee. At that time, I'd never heard of Bonnaroo. I'd only been to a few concerts and got off a bus with $7 to my name and spent 2 weeks on the farm doing security. And so Production Road has blew my mind seeing the different aspects of it and from the power to the stagehands to the production to the water guys, like all of these different elements that come together to make this festival. And I finally said, this is what I want to do. There was a woman who was driving a lift and she had this big floppy hat on, right? I'll never forget. She's this big, blonde woman with this big floppy hat driving the lift around. And I said, whatever I can do in my life to get me to that point. That's what I want to do in retirement. I want to just drive around festivals and drive a lift. So it'll be 19 years for me this year. So this will be my 19th Bonnaroo. And yeah, we're excited. It is. It's more than just going to see the shows. It's being home on the farm for a few days every year and getting away and being in one of the largest cities in Chattanooga, in Tennessee. So.
So we said last week, Brian, you've been to pretty much all of them in some form, or some longer, more days than others. Uh, the first, the first several, or let's put it this way, the last one sober.
Mhm.
Tara, it's a couple years now for you,
Yeah,
right?
I'll be celebrating 4 years in May.
And Cassie, what is your? Did you have always all eight have been sober, or yeah?
No, just the last two. I have not drank alcohol, and I will have my third year sober date actually will be on the farm this year on the Thursday. So that's pretty exciting.
Very
Thank
Congratulations.
good work.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, let's get together and throw your sober birthday party on the
Oh,
farm.
that'd be so fun. I'd love to.
So I'm going to ask all three of you because, and again, we talked about it last week, but it's a phenomena. It's a fascinating phenomenon to me because of the perception, if that's the right word, that an event like Bonnaroo has. It is not perceived to be a sober place, whether that's true or not. So, I mean, I'll ask all three of you, talk about that a little bit from your own point of view. Because, Brian, I've heard you talk about it a little bit, the idea of can I enjoy this festival sober? Can
Yeah.
I even, it's such a life changing thing. And I kind of want to hear from all three of you about how much that played into everything. I'll just go
Yeah,
with
I'll
that.
go last. Cassie, won't you start first with that thought, and then bounce to Tara, and then I'll throw mine in there as well.
Okay, so the question is, how can I have fun sober, or can I have fun
Or
sober?
yeah,
How
maybe
much did
leading
that
up
play
to
into
that
your
this decision and all
Okay.
that. Yeah.
How much did that
Um,
play into your thought process? Yeah.
yes. Well, I will say when I quit drinking, I definitely feared that I was gonna like fear of missing out. Pretty much, FOMO is what we say. I thought that I was gonna miss the magic of the farm, or I was going to not just I don't know, not feel what everyone else was feeling or the majority of people. But in reality, for me, being sober is much better because I can be fully present and I can still experience the farm, the same things as I would while on substances or drunk, but now I can like completely remember everything. I can have more energy, be more active, not feel like death on the farm, like being hungover or anything like that. The first year that I did it sober, I was worried that I might feel weird or like I was missing out on something, but I definitely didn't. It was actually really good. And the farm has so many like lights and sounds and people. It's almost like you're on a substance anyway, but you're not. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been really good.
Agree with that 100%. Tara, your thoughts on that? We never really talked about that just as friends or colleagues or as, just in passing at the time of of your date to stop drinking. I think, was it around Mother's Day? A couple of
May
years,
8th.
yeah, May, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your thoughts on, I mean, were you like, oh no, I'm not going to have fun anymore? My guess is you're a little more logical and maybe you thought it through better than some of us, but that's just my first thoughts.
No, no, no. Well, there's two funny things that, my husband got sober with me too, husband Joe, who also goes to camp with us. And I definitely don't lose as many things. So that's really
It's
nice.
good.
I had a really good track record for many years of losing my phone pretty much as soon as I stepped into any festival grounds. I
Tara, you're better
remember,
than that. You're better than that.
but before smartphones, right? We could lose them. We just go get another one.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing that I've really noticed too is like standing in lines. Like it's so nice to sit back and not stand in a beer line, stand in the porta potty line, stand in the beer line again, stand in the porta potty line again. And so those are the
It's
two
all
things
true.
that I've really gotten out of it. But it was scary. Bonnaroo, like I said, has been a really big part of my life, and I've gone from, like I said, being the raging teenager and young adult at the festival and getting in precarious situations all over the farm to like now I'm taking my teenager there, and she's been going. This will be her 6th year. So, that transition is a lot, but even so, I didn't get sober the first time I tried. It took me many, many attempts and many years to finally figure that out. And I think it was 2019. I had about 6 months that I had been sober, and I got on the farm, and I couldn't imagine being on the farm without an IPA. And I remember going to the bar over by, the Ferris wheel and buying a beer and having one, and it would be another year before I got sober. And so it's scary. You need a lot of support, and we've been very lucky to finally have that support and grow together. And so I think when you say you're more logical, it's like in some ways, yes. I was excited. I had my stuff ready. I had my NA beers and my cold brew and lots of fun beverages to kind of keep me entertained, and had some plans in place. But ultimately, the festival, remembering the shows, I have to agree with Cassie so much, and with Patrick and everybody. It's a totally different experience to remember everything and to enjoy it and to not feel like death in the hot sun under a truck, the next day
Yeah, I mean,
under a tractor trailer trying to find shade. So,
yeah, and I get all that and had a lot of the same feelings. For me, it wasn't as difficult for Bonnaroo itself, because for me it wasn't a go and imbibe a whole lot part of my year. I just did that
mhm.
everywhere else. But it certainly was something I thought about a lot, just like anything else that would be entertainment driven, that hospitality driven, those kinds of things. But yet, of course, the easiest quick answer is, you remember everything.
I was gonna think, our big conversation too is that you're relearning how to do everything.
Yeah.
I think y'all touched on that in the podcast. It's like at 49 minutes, I almost got to tears because it was so nice to hear somebody else say it. Like you're having to relearn how to do everything from sitting on a patio, going on a boat, going to a wedding. I mean, all of these life skills, if you started when you were really young, you never learned how to do anything without it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bonnaroo is just no different.
Yeah, because you said something a second ago, Tara, that kind of connects with that. You were talking about planning. And I'll ask all three of you. And Brian, I want to hear the rest of your answer. I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt, but
go ahead.
we all spend now it's about the time when regulars we start thinking about our camp and our planning and what we're packing, and we've done it enough. We know, at midnight I'm gonna have spicy pie and I'm gonna have this and a beer or a shot or smoke a joint or have a brownie or whatever to sort of plan for the. Did that have to change a lot? I mean, Terry, you're kind of talking about that. That's how we experience weddings and events and dances and whatever. Where and when will we have a drink first, and then is that a big part of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to the conversation of like, what do you do first when you get to a show? You go to the bar line. I mean, there's a
Very
ritual to
first
it.
thing.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
big ritual to it. And I think planning is just that packing. And to be fair, like I've been able, this will be my what, third year? This will be my third year. And I actually can stay up later. I can go longer, because I haven't been drinking since 9 a.m. Um, and so the plans have changed and they've changed for the better.
How about you, Cassie?
Same thing. I definitely have made a plan the past 2 years, and that's like my number one on sober Rue to-do list is make a plan. For me, I always got super drunk on Thursday night. I know that's a big no-no. But
Yep, been there,
yes,
done
as soon
that.
as I would park,
Don't
yes,
do it.
yes, as soon as I would park and you open the back hatch, you get out the cooler,
Open a
yep,
beer.
shotgun a beer, that was my thing. And then, I just wouldn't stop. I would just be extremely drunk by the time the music started, and then it would ruin my whole weekend, to be honest, because I would be so hungover on Friday, and it would just take the magic away for me. Just being sick, like feeling hungover, headache, stomach ache, all that stuff. And when you're in the sun, it's never fun. So my plan is, have something else that you can replace it with if possible. I like LaCroix sparkling water because I used to drink seltzers a lot with, like White Claw and things like that. So I like LaCroix, and you can always make it like fun. I like to put pineapple juice in there, like a little cocktail. And then always, well, big advice for me is tell everyone that you're camping with that you are sober or that you want to remain sober, and ask them for support. Like, hey, I'm thinking about drinking. I'd really like to pick up a drink right now, and ask if they could help. Walk away if you need to. And there's Soberoo. They have meetings if you want to go visit that, if that's something that is up your alley. But there's a lot of support on the farm. But I think you just need to communicate with people as well, just to get them in your team, on your team, in your corner, just for them to help you out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with a lot of us here on this
Mhm.
call in various forms have been here a lot of times. So been to festivals, Bonnaroo specifically, a lot of times, and we know a lot about it. And that's why for me, Bonnaroo specifically wasn't as big a deal because it's just such a different place. I mean, there's just so many places to get your natural dopamine, to get to you. I did all that, set up, crack a beer, 2, 3, probably key 1 or 2. It's probably been quite some time, but I've done that too. Like the excitement of we're here. I mean, I started doing this at 22 years old, 23, 24. Thursdays, Fridays, those are lost, long gone from the memory bank. And so yeah, it's I was a little nervous last year, but it didn't take long for me to figure out that this one was going to be easy for me, luckily. But I do a lot of events, and Tara, you work in the industry. I mean, everything I do involves people drinking and whatever else they're doing to enjoy themselves. And I look at that and smile at most of it. That's fine. Every single thing I do, ball games, concerts, small festivals, farmers markets, every one of them has to do with that.
Yeah.
That's a lot harder for me. Bonnaroo was easier because it is the special place. This is where I turn into a little gushy, mushy guy, not the jerk all the time, where I'm like, it's just so easy to be in a good place there at Bonnaroo. It's that simple. But I would have never understood that 5 years ago. Like
No.
I couldn't, I could conceptualize it, but then it would evaporate really quick. And then who's mixing up the drinks? And so, But to step away now, it's been pretty easy, and it's exciting. I think Barry might have asked me specifically last week how my feelings were going into this week. I don't remember how I'd answered it, or this year, and it's can't wait.
Yeah.
And I can't wait because I just know how great of a place it is.
Kai, thanks for your patience.
Yeah, hey, Kai,
today.
you want to come on in here?
And thanks for joining. I was begging Brian to ask Tara to make sure you were here today because and I'll say this in front of you, and I've said it before in front of you. Kai is just one of the cool kids. There's no question about it. And you've been part of Camp Nut Butter, which is our camp for almost, this will be 6 or 7. This will be 7.
Yes, 6 years. This
Okay.
year.
So you started very, very young. I have a lot of questions for you, but this topic is not new to you. Let's be clear to people listening. You're well aware of all of it. You have really cool parents who and include you in discussions and all of that, right? So what are your thoughts hearing what you just heard today? Let's just start there.
Yeah, well, I've been around drunk people my whole life too. Like seeing like my mom's daughter, her working shows. Not,
Thanks.
I mean, like, I was always.
We always had parties and get-togethers growing up, so she's been around it. Yes,
And you've probably been to the show. I mean, Tara ran
and she's been to Nightfall, the show.
Yeah.
All of it. Like I've been around it my whole life, and I've really seen her grow so much, and I'm really proud of her and all this stuff. And I know kids my age who are struggling with that as well. Like I know kids who went to Bonnaroo last year and they're 16, 17, getting absolutely wasted, getting lost, and it's like such an early age to kind of start that pattern. So like having assets like Soberu on the farm, I think is really important. Like what Cassie was talking about, just communicating. I just think that it's a wonderful thing to have so much support at such like a happy, fun place.
How in your and you don't have to be super specific, but in your peer group, outside when you're not around your mom and the friends that are your mom's friends that are in a version of your friends too. When you're in your own peer group, I imagine the conversation's a little different. Like how do you approach that? Do you just kind of let people do their thing, or do you?
Yeah, I am lucky to not have a lot of like friends who are drinking. I knew like a couple specific people, and you can try your best to help at this age, but people are just gonna do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it's like if you're not super close and you don't want to tell their parents because that puts you in a weird position. Being this age and seeing like substance abuse is just a really hard field to navigate. So if I find that like what someone's doing doesn't make me feel safe, or I don't want to be part of it or around it, I kind of somewhat tell them like, you need something that I can't give you, and I kind of distance myself from something that's going to be negative. For
Well,
me.
part of the reason I wanted to ask that is because we're a significant difference in age, but it wasn't that long ago that I was in high school and roughly your age. And it just, the cultural changes over the last 25 years make me so happy. You couldn't not go with the flow in the culture of which I grew up with in public school in the 90s. It was just not part of it. You went along with it whether you want it. I wanted to, but if you didn't, whether you wanted to or not, you went along with it, or else you were not going to be a part of certain social groups and settings. And at that age, and especially now, Kai, how you do it with all this social media nonsense, that just sounds like a terrible struggle. And your answer was as simple as you told it, as simple as anything else. So that's encouraging me, because I would have been eaten alive by the peer pressure to be like, oh yeah, that pill's that's cool. I want to do that too.
Yeah.
Or not, never like any kind of, and I don't mean preaching, getting in front and trying to be an activist and create a mission, but to even push back and say, "Hey guys, you sure about this?" They'd be like, "Yeah, we're sure. You're out of here.
Yeah.
You're not invited anymore, bro."
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a cool shift to me.
Yeah, I think a big conversation too, and we touched a little bit on this, is harm reduction, right? Like they're they're going to experiment. These, we're going to see this. There, I think there's a bigger leaning towards being healthy in this generation, and I think alcohol is kind of cringe if I want to get into the lingo, right?
That's great. That's great.
It's
Alcohol is cringe.
alcohol is kind of cringe, and being wasted is kind of cringe, and like there's this whole kind of movement, right? But we definitely talk about harm reduction, and fentanyl is something that we are not going to escape. Fentanyl test strips, we try to keep them in the house. If there's 25 for $25 on Amazon. Narcan, we've got organizations like Be the Place that are on the farm where you can get Narcan. We've got CPR, Life Wrap, which is made here in Chattanooga by Felicia Jackson. I mean, there's just like your go bag, right? Like all your stuff, and how do you prepare your youth and your teenagers for who might be around them, and how they can be, again, maybe not partaking, but at least be aware.
Well, while we're on that, I want to go to that direction a little bit more, Tara, because I've been impressed by how much you have put your effort, energy into awareness of this, of the strips, of being prepared, of having, and I don't remember what all the products are, the test strips, the Narcan, all these different things. And I've actually at times thought I should know more about this and I should push it more too, because this would another thing to be frowned upon. Whoa, drug prevention, preventative kind of things. Well, that means they might be doing drugs. Okay, that was just the different world 25, 30 years ago. Speak to that some. I know Moon River here locally had a station this year, and I remember your socials being just like over the moon excited, saying, "Look at what Moon River's done, how great this is." This has been a strong point to you, and explain a little further what you're talking about, the kind of like almost a first aid kit for potential drug overdose. And we're not talking about smack in the gutter overdose. We're thinking from the movies from forever ago. We're talking about a pill. Something that you have no idea, you would think as harmless as it could be, isn't. If you would just expand on that a little bit and your efforts in getting that awareness out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it scares me for the kids nowadays. You can't experiment, you can't have fun. We used to have the impression, and Brian, we grew up in similar times where, alcohol, drugs, it was in the media, it was everywhere around us. It was cool. It was what we did. It's how we made friends. It's how we bonded, right? And the fact is that if you can't stop it, you can at least make it safer. And so that's where this term harm reduction comes from. And I didn't make it up, obviously. I've learned this. And so these products, like you used to have to do a lot of drugs to overdose.
Yeah.
You used to have to really be spun out to OD, right?
Beautiful point. We're thinking of just like guy can't stop, goes all night, ODs. That's not what we're talking.
Downers.
That's not what we're talking about.
Mixing stuff. Yeah. These situations, you're shooting heroin. I mean, like, there's like all these things that we knew when we've all lost people, right? And I think that's a big part of my story too. Is I've got a lot of people I've lost, and so it's one of those things where it's so simple, and it's so easy, and it's so available now that it just seems silly. And it's like you can almost make a goodie bag for the person that you care about that's going to Bonnaroo, and throw a thing of Narcan in there, throw a thing of these fentanyl test strips, and it's really easy. You literally take this test strip and you put a little bit of whatever it is you want to do in a baggie, and you swirl it with some water, put the test strip in it, and it tells you if it has too much fentanyl in it.
Sounds pretty simple.
If it does, don't do it. If it doesn't, whatever you're going to go do and enjoy.
But proceed
whatever.
with caution.
I'm not here to judge. I'm here to try to keep people safe, right? And so, those are those things.
I probably should have said at the beginning, because we're having this conversation 2 weeks in a row. I don't think, and I don't want to speak for any of you guys, but I don't think we're necessarily here advocating that everybody needs to go to Bonnaroo sober.
No, not even a little bit.
No, absolutely not.
Point, right?
Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
I
No,
marvel in
have
people
fun.
who can recreationally just dabble in a little drinking and a little recreational whatever it might be. I
And that's the perfect
marvel at the
place,
people who can do that
right?
in a very responsible way.
And it
I
is the
can't.
perfect
I
place. I've
can't.
said that for
I
a lot of
can't do
people
it.
ask me, are you up there doing drugs all weekend? I said, I wish, because that's the perfect place, but that's just not for me.
Yeah.
It's, I've always, especially when I was still working at the paper, my joking line was, I'm that guy that'll take some drug and end up naked up in a tree, and people will say, that's the guy from the paper. I know
Yeah.
that guy,
Yeah.
so it scared me
Uh-huh.
to death. So, but I want to make that point. That is not the point. I think the point that we want to have this conversation is that it can happen. That you can attend these type of things
And being
sober
prepared is, I
and do
mean,
it safely. And we
it's
want to have all
paramount.
those
Yeah.
conversations. And Cassie, you pointed out, and I know Tara, you did too. But Patrick, that was one of the things that really sort of hit me as a someone unfamiliar with what all they do was the support that Soberoo offers. And Cassie, you mentioned it earlier, the support that you need, right, from your
Yeah,
friends.
it's to get away from it all. Yeah, Cassie, and also I wanted to ask you a little bit more specifically as you made that switch with your friends who probably didn't all do the same thing you were doing as far as getting away from whatever substances it might have been. How was that transition for you? Did people look at you strange? Like, we still going to be able to be friends? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I went through that. I think that a lot of people understand that.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was a hard transition. And I'll just say it's like the ones who don't get with it, they get left behind. So if you're not supportive of me getting healthy, then maybe I shouldn't be so close to you. So
It's a pretty good indicator, real quick,
mhm,
that if someone thinks it's not supportive of your sobriety
yeah,
journey, there's a lot of reasons why they don't need to be
yeah,
involved. And luckily, and Tara and I have so many cross pollinated friends in this community. It's just, I mean, it's meant a million, trillion, umpteen billion, uncountable jillion dollars of anything I could imagine to me. It's been a celebration to the point it makes me feel awkward almost. And I love it. And I love it. And it's helped me tremendously.
Kai, I'll ask you, and you can answer or not. But when you're talking about, and kind of when Brian was talking about his high school and mine, the peer pressure and all that, were you at some point thinking, I can't wait till I'm old enough to have a beer legally? Or were you thinking, I ain't doing that ever?
Um, Honestly, it's kind of a switch, you know? Like, I think there was a really long time when I was like, I'm never gonna do anything like that. I'm never gonna drink or get wasted or get hungover. And I think I feel that way right now, but there was definitely like a time, like early sophomore year, where I was like, oh, like people drink, like it seems so fun, like it's just like an experience, like a rite of passage almost. But now, like, there's so many other things that you can do to kind of get that feeling where you're not getting hungover that I'm personally, I think I'm okay without going crazy hard. Like, there's Delta 9 lemonades and stuff like that, and people like eat that up, you know?
I'm a
Yeah.
fan. I'm a
Yeah,
fan.
so I mean, especially like apothecary, like all these CBD shops opening up, they're literally selling like legal weed. And I think that for my generation at least, like being an alcoholic, like it's embarrassing almost. Like people
Good.
frown upon
Finally.
I'm serious. Because it's like everyone's just thinking like there are so many other things that you can do that make you feel a lot better and aren't like as trashy, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
and Kai, real quick, just a little bit anecdotal, just comment more than anything else is I'm glad you brought it up that way because in my day job, I work in the beer business, and we've had not meetings because I'm not in that world as far as real meetings, but with a handful of people who've been in the industry for a long time, and I and they might just be looking at, all right, pipe down, only sober guy in the company, shut up. But I was like, you know what? I mean, the idea of drinking until you look stupid. We thought that was funny. I mean, that had almost like a cultural kind of, if there was memes, back in the day that would have they would be there. It was almost I don't want to say celebrated, but it wasn't looked at as like, what a guy who is just kind of
Oh, yeah.
just, spinning away into a mess. And now I feel like, Kai, your generation is like, who the hell wants to get gone on this stupid package alcohol? I think that's a great shift, not for my industry as much,
Uh-huh.
but for humanity and young people growing up through a very difficult time of peer pressure and trying to have fun, balancing trying to have fun, trying to define what fun is. That was my problem as a 40-something-year-old
Yeah.
trying to define fun. I thought I was Mr. Fun. Now I got to try to define it again.
Nobody
Um,
ever thought you were Mr. Fun. What are you? What
I
the?
said I thought that.
I think I just want to say two things real quick too, and the conversations go around the why of using and the science behind it underage. Like obviously we support it. We support legalization. We support all of these things, and at that time when she's ready, that'll be something that won't be frowned upon. But I do say that there's the science behind starting at a young age, how it affects you, what you stop at is where you start at, right? And then just the why of like, are you doing this to prove that you're cool? Are you doing this because you're sad? There's all these kind of conversations of the why, and I think that bleeds into like at Bonnaroo, like why if you're doing it to have fun and connect with your friends, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah,
You know, do your thing.
Cassie,
Just be safe.
we're. I mean, we know Kai is 17. I'm a little bit older, a little bit older than all of you. What we haven't really asked about your sort of group. Do you kind of hinted at that if somebody's not supportive of you, then see ya. Uh, do you go? Have you been going with the same group for 8 years, or is it a change? Do you go by yourself? How like Camp Nut Butter, which is our group, and Tara and Kai and Joe have been part of it for many years, as his Brian. Um, so it's kind of the same group, and we noticed this shift last year. I think Russ and I were probably the only two in camp that were having a beer. We weren't. We
They
don't.
weren't shotgunning them.
No, we never do because, as I said last week, the idea of being
Can we do
hungover,
that this year though? I'd like to see
They're
that.
shotgun
shotgunning
LaCroix.
Lacroix.
Yes.
Give yourself some heartburn.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
really. I don't think we. Maybe occasionally one night of the weekend might be a little extra. Might have been in the past, but it's not like we're. Though we did have a Bloody Mary tent for many years. That was a big part of our
Hmm.
Sunday morning and Saturday
Yeah, but
morning.
That was my job.
that's the beautiful part. We only
Was the Bloody
had
Mary.
one Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
It's not like we
Yeah,
we passed
exactly.
them around and had 10 of them.
Yeah, no, it was
Boy,
a great
boy,
way to
I
start
will
the day.
always
Yeah,
miss.
Tara and
I will always miss Bloody Mary Sundays.
it was a lot. It
Yeah.
was a blast. So, Cassie, how is that? How has your group or your camp evolved? I guess through this.
Well, you asked if I had gone with the same group for the whole 8 years. The answer is no. There's been some overlap for a few years here and there of people, but this past year I went by myself. And it was my favorite year just doing it solo, not having any agenda, like having to be somewhere. I don't want to leave the group, or my group wants to go see this show, but I want to go see this show, but I don't want to leave them, so I'm just going to go with them. But when I went by myself, I just enjoyed it more. However, in the past, the groups I was with party pretty hard, and I will say it has shifted, and now a lot of them still go to Bonnaroo, and they don't drink or use substances either. So I will say it has evolved. I started going when I was 23. I just graduated college, so I'm 32 now, and we've all evolved a bit, and definitely harm
Okay.
reduction, testing everything, being aware, and just like educated on how to do that, and yeah, we've evolved, and I'm proud of everyone that I know that goes to Rue in that regard.
Thank you for sharing your age because it really is a good spectrum here. We're basically 17 to 60, and all points in between. So, Kai, I've been waiting all day actually all week to ask you this question because I think, and you can answer it. We don't have to get into too specific details, But we have said on this show many, many times that Bonnaroo is not for everyone, right? It's a long slog. You got to be committed. You don't want to be there with somebody who's not fully committed. Um, when you talk to your friends about this, because you've been going since you were 10, I mean that's a cool kid that can like it. Like I remember taking my kids to Nightfall, which is our local summer series, to see certain acts, and it finally dawned on me that all they see are back and knees. You know,
Hmm.
they're not having any fun. Now they are, but anyway, so when you, like I said, talk about that a little bit, that it's not for everyone, and then how you explain it to like your friends. I'm sure they think, oh man, that's so cool. You get to go see great bands and stay up till 2 and 3 in the morning, and but it's not for everyone, right?
And if you don't mind me, real quick, Kai, also talk about that a little bit when you were a little younger too. Not so much as now, because I know the curiosity is over the
Yeah, you're
off the
perfect age right
charts
now.
now. Even talk about a little bit when you were younger, when most of your friends wouldn't even imagine the opportunity. Just sorry to overload that on you, but I was curious about that as well.
No, I mean, well, the reason my parents decided that I could go to Bonnaroo was I stayed up until 3 in the morning with them on the porch when I was like 10. They were like, "You're ready." So that was kind of my my like introduction. It was very fun, very cool. But yeah, I mean, the first year I went, like all these people, like they were like, "What are you wearing? Like, why are you like wearing like this like crazy like clothing at this wherever the hell you are?" You know, like that was when like my first couple of years, I would get replies on my stories of people my age just like really confused. You know,
'Cause we
and
dress, we
we
dress
dress,
up.
yeah, you know, like I would wear like my bathing suits just out and about as like a 10-year-old, and people were like, "What are you doing?" You know, like it was very like foreign to a lot of people, and it's funny now like seeing a lot of those same people going like Railbird or like also like wanting to go to Bonnaroo. Yeah, but you're right, it's not for everyone. Experienced this past year. Some people just aren't able to kind of make it those full 4 days. I was very lucky to be introduced at a young age, and I was given a lot more grace about it. Like, oh, Kai's tired. Like, that's okay. She's 11. She can go to sleep in the tent. But like now, like you're older, and it's like you gotta go. You got all these shows that you want to see. This is a once in a lifetime really experience for that specific year, and you can't stop. Like you're gonna have to stay up until 4 in the morning so you can go see Killer Meal DJ. Like it's
She's
you can't
got
miss
it
that,
down.
and
Yeah.
you can't miss that. So it's you gotta kind of give grace to new people because it's gonna be hard. You know, your first year. There's all that dust you're inhaling. Your lungs are dying. It's so hot outside. They're just not used to it. And yeah, like a lot of my friends, like, oh, I want to go. I want to like go this year. And I can kind of just look at them, like from knowing them, and be like, uh huh, yeah, yeah. But I'm also very lucky. Like we camp in like a very nice area, and we have a lot of privilege with that. And some people don't. Some people are out in GA and they're waiting in line for hours just to get into Bonnaroo. So if I was in GA, maybe I would be different. But I
Now,
don't.
real quick, you guys have done. I know you've done GA, Tara. I've done it with you partially, so you know GA,
I
Kai.
do very
Kai, but
well.
Kai knows GA too, right? Or
Kai doesn't
I
know
don't.
you
GA. That
don't?
she's
I've
spoiled.
Can't
never
nut
had that.
butter
As
all
soon
the
as I
way.
turn
I
18, though, I'm
When
I
she's
have a
18, we're
lot.
kicking her out into
No,
GA.
okay. I'm sorry. Well, I mean that doesn't discredit all of the points you just made. It is a
just hurts a
different.
little.
It's a different world out there, Kai.
Yeah.
Let's segue real
It's
quick
still
into
fun.
that because Tara, I know you have, what do you call them, Mama's rules,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
The
this seems
Rue Commandment.
Rue
Gotta live those
commandments.
Irish
This seems
songs.
like a good time. Can you? I've got it in front of me. If you don't have it in front of you, but
I do. I got it.
Yes,
can you give
and
some
I can't wait for
highlights?
this. And what I loved about this most is for years and years and years, people would come up to me, 5 years older than me, 10, it's my same age, whatever the time frame was, with their kids getting to be about 15, 16, 17, and it was always, hey, is it safe for my kid to go to Bonnaroo? And it's like, Bonnaroo's not a dangerous place.
No,
It's
I
not,
No.
unless you don't have any idea what you're doing and you don't
Yep.
know you even the basics, like even the basics, then yes, it could be. But I said you shouldn't be scared with your kid going off to the even 15 years ago. It shouldn't scare you unless you don't trust your child at all, and then you should be scared for your child every day of your life.
yeah. Well, that my
Yeah.
answer. I always had two. One was flippant, which was tell them don't bring drugs because they'll find plenty there. You know,
Yeah.
that was
Hmm.
the don't.
Hmm.
But the truth was, I said, if your kid is the type of kid that finds trouble or
Then they'll
trouble
find trouble. Then
finds
they'll
the
find
kid,
trouble. Yeah.
they'll find it. If your kid is a
Yeah.
level headed, responsible human being, they'll be just fine. That was always my short answers. But Tara, you've developed because my daughter went with me, but she was a high school graduate and ended up working and but she's like Kai. She's an old soul. She was that one who would sit on the front porch with us till 3 in the morning as
Hmm.
well. But I love these rules or these. So if you don't mind, run through them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think and with Kai, her first Sunday of Rue with Lord, and that kind of happened, and then we really started going. Midtown was like a really easy. I think as a parent, if you're wanting to bring your child into the world with you of festivals, starting off with a smaller, more manageable festival is a good idea. But unless you really have experience with Bonnaroo and you can really handle it. So like we started with Midtown, right? We've done Forecastle, we did Lala, Moon River, Riverbend. So she's been raised up in these things, and so our number one rule, and this was actually funny because this was the rule that I was given at 19 by the security company that I had to work for, 12 hours on, 12 hours off for 2 weeks on the farm, and it was don't eat the goo balls.
That's simple.
Uh, it's that simple. And it kind of has now revolved into this like, do not eat, smoke, drink, vape after anyone in the festival. Uh, a lot of these wonderful, beautiful, beautiful people around you do not realize that you are 15 or 16 and they want to share. And that is beautiful. Right. And you can always feel empowered to just say, you are adorable. Thank you, but no, thank you. I do not know where that came from.
Right.
Did I listen to that when I was a
No, you
teenager?
didn't.
Absolutely
No,
not.
you didn't.
Absolutely not. No, but that's the number one rule. And now they just come in all forms. So it's like gummy bears, candies, brownies, goo balls was the fun thing back in the day. And you even hear those stories of people getting sprayed with drugs. And so it's not as I don't think anybody's out here with the money in this economy to spray people with their drugs,
I do remember
No.
that
but
year. That was the big
but
rumor.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
going to get
yeah, yeah.
spritzed.
Yeah. So
PCP or something.
that's number one. Um, Number two, do not run away with a cute boy or girl, and no GA without an adult. Uh, at 15, 14, 13, you need to determine at what point you let your child go into these arenas. For us, this will probably be the first year that I let her go meet up with friends because she's been trained up in it, and I feel confident. But at that time last year, and again, pending the child, you need to absolutely never go to anyone's campsite without a buddy or without an adult, and never go into anybody's tent, right? So that's just safety. It's just like at home, you don't go into strangers' houses. It's a lot harder when these people are all together, they're all having fun, you're all around the cooler and stuff, but just no GA, nothing without an adult.
Good one.
So that was our rule. Um, Number three, rolling into that is the buddy system. Staying together, service. There's no service half the time. Um, talking about who to go to if you need help. The medical tent, somebody with a safety shirt, knowing the map, knowing where you're located, finding those things around you, whether that be the clock tower. your pod, something besides, hey, I'm next to that van with, Minnesota plate. Or the guy with the tie dye shirt and the beard, right? So like finding something more substantial. The lemonade stand in front of what stage? Like what is your plan on how if you get lost you're going to get back together with no service? Something that we implemented too this year was time stamping our text.
Yeah, I love this part.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
yeah.
simple. It's like one of those. Why didn't we think about this a long time ago? Because we know
A long time
text
ago, and I
messages, yeah,
stole.
aren't going to come through on a timely manner sometimes, and to timestamp every one of them is very helpful.
Yeah, so obviously, if you're at the volleyball court or or wherever at 3 o'clock, and you text me, but my text doesn't come in until 6 o'clock, you're
Yeah,
gone. I don't think you're still there.
that information doesn't do me any good.
It's void. No
Yeah.
good. So that was good that we started
So
that.
what do you all
And
do?
if you
Do you just say it's 10:30 in the morning? I'm at the porter potty in Plaza Two.
pretty much,
We would
we may not say it's 10:30, but it's like
10:30. Where are you? Like just kind of like introducing or ending whatever, just like with the time, just kind of put it in there.
yeah, like 6:30 at the what stage seeing Matt Mason, or
Like it's a
whoever.
schedule.
Yeah, and this is where I'm at. And so, because we split up where, husband Joe might go with her for a little bit and I'll go see some shows and then we'll trade off. And so there's always somebody around. So that helps everybody. And then also like meeting people is a big thing. Like everybody thinks they're like, oh, my friends are there. I'm going to just go meet them. And it's like, I don't know if that's going to happen for
Rookie
you,
mistake.
but if you do want to meet friends, family, somebody, just go ahead and plan it ahead of time. Like, hey, we're partying at Thursday. I'll see you Thursday, 5 o'clock at the Mushroom. That's where we're going to get started. And go ahead and have some of those schedules and plans in place, especially if they're not camping with you.
Yeah, in those big crowds, like you see someone and you don't, and you can't just look around because it's so full. Everyone's dancing, jumping. It's like it could be who you're looking for, but you're not gonna
And
know.
they're right in front of you and you don't even
Yeah.
know it. And
Yeah, I will say another hack that kind of goes along with the timestamps is what I like to do, especially when I go by myself, is the very first like day that I get in, I find my friends' campsites, and then the rest of the weekend, if we don't have service, I can't call them or text them, I'll just show up at their camp, and they're usually
mhm.
there. They may or may not be there, but that's a good way to find people is know where your friends are camped and where you could, escape to if you need to.
Yeah, where your safe space is. Have a plan, right? And if you get lost, know where you can go.
I seem like last year, Kai. I know I've seen you guys, the three of you, head out to the volleyball or to go play, do things as a family. How much are you on your own last year, Kai? Now, and especially since you're older, versus, I mean, you're not spending all weekend with mom and dad, are you?
Yeah. I mean, last year we split up a couple times. It wasn't really like splitting off. It would be like I would go in the pit and they would be like way out at a tree somewhere. So we were all always kind of in the same area. We would have a meeting spot, but it was almost like not like a leash, but just like we had
It
like
is.
It's a
sticks.
really long leash.
The really long leash. I'm very, yes,
Yeah,
that's
and
who I
then
am.
like some amount of time last year just for like maybe like two shows, met some people, and then came back. So but I think this year will probably be a lot more freedom. I have a lot of coworkers going. My boyfriend's coming, so we're kind of gonna be hopping around. But yeah, I think last year was kind of like the last like hover nest.
Yeah. She's leaving the Bonnet nest.
I
No.
get it. I get it.
The Bonnet nest. I know. And knowing that she has a buddy with her that I trust is a big deal, right? So I know that she's got somebody with her and she knows her that place like the back of her hand, so she'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Um, just a couple more. I've only got six rules, right? Four is obviously hydrate, nourishment, and sunscreen. Don't go into the pit without water. Like if you're gonna go stand at a rail for 6 hours waiting on a band to play, like bring some water, figure it out. So many kids pass out. We saw that at Lala this year where, I mean, they're just getting dragged out left and right, from heat exhaustion. And
Well, we were trying to Forecastle. I remember Forecastle was kind of bad too, but we were trying to wait for Tyler the Creator to be like front and center for him. So I like he's like one of my favorite runners of all time. So I dragged her with me, and we were just standing there for like we went for like 5 hours. Like we got really
in the
close, and
sun.
then she was like, I don't want to leave you here alone. So we went and we found a porta potty, and that was the end of the day.
No, no,
No,
no. That was not the end of the day. It was not the end of the
not
day.
the end
Do
of
you
the
not
day.
try to put that on me? What happened next? What happened next?
She bribed the security guard in the VIP pit, and we got in the VIP pit. So,
Well, it's good to
Is
have
I
that
did not do
connections.
that.
that's pro
Anyway,
move. Those are pro moves.
we are.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm too old to be waiting 6 hours in the pit. But the other one is do not fight the flow. So I think that's one thing we got caught up in this at Midtown once when she was really young, and it was super embarrassing. Where the wall that happens, like, is everybody familiar with like the wall of people that you just can't get through, and how if you're stuck, like it's easier to go out the sides than it is to try to go out the back. And so teaching your child about the wall, I think, with safety in crowds is really important. We got stuck trying to leave Midtown when she was probably
Oh yeah.
13, um, through Travis Scott. It might have been Travis Scott. And we were trying to leave. And so we're in the middle. Somehow it happened so fast, so we should have gone around to get to our exit. But instead, I kind of went through, but the crowd just came in and we were stuck. And literally, I had a light up wand and I just was dragging her through all of these people and just going, whoa, whoa, making my noises, da, da, da. Yeah, making my noises, going through, dragging this 13-year-old through this situation. And we get to the end of it, and Kai is so upset. And the mother, was like, I'm so sorry. I know that was really scary. And she's like, no, you're so embarrassing.
She said on literally every single blanket in that
We
entire
had to get out.
entire theater.
That seems to be a pattern at Travis Scott concerts.
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
So we had to get out. So we got out. We were safe, and I was the cringe, mom. But and number 6 is just have fun, be weird, tell everyone it's your birthday, be whoever you want to be. We're gonna have a blast, and it's Bonnaroo, and so just have fun. It's really the place where everyone is accepted, where you can be who you want to, you can dress how you want to. And I just you can't explain that to somebody who's never been until they go.
Yeah, that's a I it has occurred to me more and more that we do this show how much this event means to me. When you sent me your
Hmm.
text, and Cassie, I'll send it to you so you can see what we're talking about. But Tara's talking points and these rules, I showed it to my wife, who's been to Bonnaroo for 10 minutes, and I said, "This is why I care so much." And it's because, Tara,
Yeah.
what you said. Everybody who goes has similar. Everybody has their own unique stories and takeaways, but there are so many similarities. Is what I
Hmm.
and this is it. We talk about this stupid event year round,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
almost every
Yep.
day, right? And so for people
Yep.
listening, and again, 40% are going to be new, be first timers, and so they're watching this thinking, man, these people are crazy, or maybe we are, but we love it.
We are.
I want to ask Cassie your own tips. I mean, I don't know that you've written them down. Uh,
Just Bonnaroo tips in general.
yeah,
And
Okay.
maybe even coming from where you're not drinking and stuff these days, tips
yeah.
that have maybe
Any.
changed over the last 8 years for you.
Yeah. Well, biggest tip is shade. To me, you need shade. Bring a canopy and put tapestries, bed sheets, or blackout curtains around and tie them together with binder clips or zip ties. You don't want to come without your shade. It's just a fact.
Amen.
The first year I went in 2014, for whatever reason, we didn't bring a canopy. It was miserable. Still had a
Me
lovely
too.
time, but it was just awful. It was like boot camp out there. Um, Next tip, I like to pack my backpack for Centeroo like all day. I'll pack my daytime stuff, I'll pack my nighttime stuff. So I always have like a pair of pants, a long sleeve shirt because it gets cold when the sun goes down. I always have
Yeah.
granola bars. I always have water on top of water. I always carry a reusable water bottle and then also a camelback, like the straw that goes in your backpack. And then another tip that I haven't done, but I feel like is pretty helpful, is to rent a locker if you don't like to carry around a lot of stuff, because those are over by the what stage, and you could just put your stuff in there if you don't want to carry around. I always have a fan in my backpack, a hand fan, and then also a battery powered fan. And now I also carry a very compact, small umbrella in there as well. So I just like to
Mm.
keep my backpack very stocked with things I need. Electrolyte powder, things like that. And I always pack my backpack before I get to Rue, so that whenever I get my camp set up, I just grab my backpack and go in center Rue.
What I was going to ask you, Kai, and because you mentioned, Tara, that the getting through that, I think you said it was Lala, getting through that Midtown,
Midtown.
getting through that crowd, and maybe went the wrong direction, and the end result was she was embarrassed. Um, Kai, I know you might not want to answer this question in front of your mother, but I know that the relationship is there that you probably will, at least to a certain degree. At what point over these 6 years that you've been doing this, was there ever a time when it was kind of like, Mom, all right, you're killing me now. You're killing me. Like I know your attitude's good because I see it every year. I know that your attitude is good. I also know that we all, no matter how good our attitudes can go south at times. Where there sometimes where, and I know the list of rules might not have been existed yet, but they still existed within your talking points in life. Was there times when you were like, Mom, I can't take any more of this?
There has been a lot of times, a lot of times, 100%. I can't remember them all, but even just like it's so hot out there. It's so easy to just snap if you're in a bad
Yeah,
mood.
yeah.
Like just hearing her talk about Pedro Pascal all past Bonnaroo, and I'm just like, wow, I'm like, goodness, like please, like
Excuse me.
let me live here. But I mean, it's hard. Just not for anyone and everyone. Like even the people that you love and cherish the most, like you are being challenged out there. It is a challenge, and if you're especially like being with the same people all 4 days, all day and night, like not a single
Yeah, if you're
day.
tired of them, then that
It
from
it's
yeah.
hard. Um, and it can end. It can end relationships or
Well, I
friendships because
remember, I
it's
don't
just
remember
like
if it
you
was
see
last
someone
year or
out
2
there.
years ago, but I think it was 2 years ago when it was so hot. I remember you getting up, Kai, and saying, "I'm tired of listening to you guys whine." So you went, and I was like, "Dang, she's right."
I can't.
I'm
It
being
hit.
brutally honest out there with all of you. I've noticed. It's a
Poor
very
Kai.
safe
It
space.
hit. I was like,
But I
"Dang,
mean,
man, the 15-year-old just took us."
Kai camps with a bunch of grumpy adults.
Yeah, surely I wasn't involved with this. I'm irritated fest. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was
That
funny
what
because it was
that wasn't me.
true.
no, no.
Um,
But yeah, I mean, I love listening to you guys, but
enough's enough.
sometimes enough is enough. You know, if it's the same idea, I said my 30 different dudes, the same different ways. Like,
Yeah.
so, but
Well,
no,
it
I
you
mean,
never
you
you
always
never grow
survive.
out of a lot of this stuff because me and Barry and just texts and other stuff have kind of joked recently that it's like I finally get all you're getting old soon guy
Oh, I know.
stuff that Barry's been saying for like a decade.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like in my
Mhm.
mid early 30s like
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
guy.
Just wait.
I
Just
love him
wait.
to death. Love him to death, but he's off base on this one. No, he's not. No,
Yeah.
he's not. And I was
Yeah.
in my 30s. So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
When you wake up and you hurt, that's when you know. And you didn't do anything but sleep.
Mhm.
It's begun. Um, all right. I want to ask everybody who you're looking forward to seeing. We
Yeah,
all
we
have
want to
our
get to
list.
your schedule. Was released in the last, it's been almost 2 weeks now, but definitely want to get, especially you, Kai. I'd like to know where where your map is going, or
You.
at least your
Mhm.
hopeful map, and you'll see what happens once you get there. If we want,
Yeah.
we can start right there if you guys
Yeah.
want to.
No, I mean, I am super excited. I have a ton of people on here, but I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible. I think this year's gonna be good for like newer people because I feel like the headliners aren't like as hard hitting as they usually are,
Most
just for
people
me
agree
at
with
least.
that.
But yeah, but a lot of like the smaller acts I think are really exciting for me. I always hate how they do the schedule because they'll overlap like everyone that I love. But Thursday is kind of just like everyone there. Like I don't really know a lot of people. Matt Maltese, I like him, and then Guara with my mom. Good never.
It's gonna
I
be
don't
our
know Guara like that, but she knows Guara like that, and she loves him. So
yes. We're going to
Yeah,
Guar.
you've
that's
seen them
exciting.
before,
2
right,
a.m.
Tara?
Oh, a
Yeah.
million
It
times.
seems like I remember you telling some gore stories.
Oh, I got some. Yep.
Friday, I love Peter Girl is one of my favorite artists of all time. I love their music. It really like defines who I was my like freshman sophomore year. So this will be my third time seeing them. I'm really excited for them. Dominic Fike's amazing. Lizzie McAlpine, I started listening to her like my 8th grade year, and she was really like growing in popularity. You guys might not like have heard of her, but she went on tour with Taylor Swift. Like she's really come really far away, so I'm excited to see her. Thundercat, Faye Webster is someone I've been dying to see for years. Saturday was Cigarettes After Sex, Ethel Caden's amazing. Casey Elephant and Ryan Beatty, I think Betty maybe. But those are kind of my Saturday picks. Sunday, I'm super excited for Yves Tumor, Goth Babe, and Joey Badass. Goth Babe has always thrown such an amazing show. Like I love seeing Goth Babe, and Yves Tumor has great music, so I'm really excited.
We've seen Joey Badass a couple
We've
times
seen Joey
too.
Badass, yeah, like once or twice, and he's really good too. Really inspirational, weirdly, but I've definitely written down some stuff that he says at his concerts in my notes app. So I think it's going to be a great year for people who haven't been before. And I think it's a great year for music, as much as everyone's complaining.
Cassie, what about you? What are you looking? What's your schedule look like? Just kind of a rough run through how
Yes, I did. I have
your
some. I
plans.
have some artists that I wrote down. As far as my top, top is Pretty Lights. Next is Ashniko. I'm very, very excited to see her. Next, after that is Crumbin. And then I really want to see this drum and bass artist called Shy FX. Because I feel like we don't really get a lot of drum and bass on the farm, and I'm super excited about that. And then Megan the Stallion on Sunday, and then Guar. I love Guar. I've seen him
Yeah.
before. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'm so yes,
We'll
I'd
have
love
to
to.
meet up for that
I'm so
one
Y'all
excited.
know that starts at 2 in the morning, right? That starts at
I
2 in the morning.
know. I know it's
on
gonna be
Yeah.
rough, but I'm
Thursday.
gonna do it. I don't think I'm gonna
Dang.
dress. Yes, I'm not gonna dress in
Worth it.
white or anything because I don't want to like have to wash all that off after because there's no
Mm-hmm.
showers, obviously.
Hmm.
That's
Y'all
what
can
that
just
little
tell me.
umbrella, that
Yes,
little
Y'all
umbrella.
just tell me about that one. Yeah,
yes.
just let me know about it.
And then T Pain, of course, is in my top two because Bonnaroo is so nostalgic for me. Like they're all a lot of the acts that they bring are like from my childhood, so I really enjoy seeing artists like T Pain. So those are my top. I think there are some definite conflicts, especially with T Pain and Thundercat, and Mars Volta. I think is the
Yeah.
same
Mars
time.
Volta. Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Yep. I was gonna say the
All at the
exact same
exact same
thing.
time. What are
Yeah,
they doing? What are
yeah.
they doing?
Ridiculous.
I'm gonna go to T Pain, and then I'll probably end the night like the last 20 minutes at Thundercat. Not that you asked, but that's so
Well, we did
No,
ask.
that's
yeah.
No,
good to
I'll get
know.
Thundercat. I'll get
I was trying to figure out how I
Yeah,
was gonna handle
but
that, so
Guar is yeah.
that's
I'm
good.
very very excited for Guar. We'll definitely have to meet up.
Tara, what you got?
Oh, I let's see. Yeah, Thursday Guar with Kai. That's something that a mother and daughter should experience
Said no
together.
one ever.
Heard here only on this
Um,
show.
Love
Guar is
that.
something a mother and daughter should experience. Timestamp that. Make a promo out of
I
that.
love it.
yes, 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 yes. So we're definitely gonna go hang out at that. Let's see. We've got Friday. I have the same problem with T Pain, Mars Volta, and Thundercat being all at the same time. So I'm gonna figure that out somehow. Let's see. Saturday we got Brittany Howard, Cigarettes After Sex, Parcels, Pretty Lights. And then yeah, Sunday, Megan Thee Stallion. You know, I'm really excited to see Megan Thee Stallion. I'm very excited to see that. But other than that, you know, I'm gonna let her drag me around and let everybody drag me around to see what I can see. My favorite part of Bonnaroo is walking into a place where I don't know any of the artists and walking home being a fan.
That's the best, isn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's the most common comment from people who have, who understand what this is. And that's a common
yeah,
bond amongst most everybody, most Bonnaroovians anyway.
I think to me, from
yeah,
someone who's written about music for as long as I did, that's probably been the biggest shift. Really, is this idea of discovering somebody new versus being a fan of the number one song on the radio that gets played 15 times a day. It wasn't always that way, and
yeah.
I think that's cool. So, all right, well, thank you guys so much. I knew this would be a lot of fun, and it has been. Appreciate you giving up some time and sharing, some pretty personal stuff, really. But I think it's important, and glad we did it. So,
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And boy, I mean, we're looking at my wrist as if there's a watch. It's getting, I mean, snap your fingers. It's going to be here.
getting there.
May's almost here already. So this is getting
Yeah.
exciting
Yeah.
times.
Start to get those outfits together now.
Yep.
I got my
Time to make all my
yes.
crafts to give out.
Oh, yeah. Here's her obsession with that guy. I mean, he's
Shake.
fine, but come on.
All right, so there you go. Once again, two things, Brian, that stuck with me from last week and this week is this idea of support.
Yeah.
That I've not been through it. I have in my own mind perception, and I ask you, and I ask them. Were you worried about going to an event like this sober? How much does that change impact your thoughts? And what I keep hearing is support. The fact that there is support. If you need to go talk to somebody, you can. If you need to get away from your group because they're not helping, or somebody, that the support is there, and they're happy to help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really that simple that it's there if you need it, and if you don't need it, even better,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's been interesting to talk about from now three different people, and really and the first being the founder of the organization. Um, Everybody kind of had the similar answer. Even Patrick from last week, even if it wasn't specifically the same worded answer, yeah, there was a little fear. Like everybody, I mean, that's a very, very common thing, and to be able to all understand that because I mean, I thought I was a fool for it. Like, how stupid, I mean, how stupid do I sound and look, or how like I felt I did have some insecurities, not so much they ate me alive, but a little bit. And to know that the more you hear, like, hey, man, this is normal. This is how this works. Roll with it. Roll with
Right.
it. And then when you're in a world like Bonnaroo that we're so familiar with, it doesn't take long to get comfortable and to roll with it. If you took me to Lollapalooza or you took me somewhere I've never been, I don't know how well I would do.
Sure. Sure.
I don't know. Shaky Knees is in 2 weeks, and it used to be one of my not guarantees of the year, but it certainly was a very close to probably. I don't have as ton of interest anymore, even though I'd be perfectly comfortable there as well. So I think the Bonnaroo. I hate to use the word magic, but that's what it is. That's
Yeah.
what it is,
No.
and it helps. It really, really, really does.
Yeah. I appreciated the answers, and all right. Well, there you go. Another good show. Thanks again to all those guys for giving up time to talking to a couple of dopes like us on this silly show that we do every week.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for
We'll be back
exactly.
next week. like, share, and do all that stuff. And thanks to Consequence for letting us do this. So see you guys and have a great week.
See ya.
Consequence Podcast Network.